Welcome to our podcast, Below the Belt. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you, wherever you guys are joining us from today. Guys, it is our privilege to be here with you, our first Sunday broadcasting. But as we said to you guys, we're going to be on every day of the week, bringing to you the news and the information, the personalities also, as they said in the old GBC days, the personalities behind the news, the personalities and the issues behind the news. To thief a phrase, to borrow a phrase. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you. And guys, we're going to be on, as I said, every day of the week. We're going to be on daily just because of you guys. We know how important it is for you guys to get the news and information, and how much you guys depend on us for that. And so we are going to be on with you. As soon as you come, we want to see those emojis. We want to see how you guys are receiving us on this Sunday. We want to see those shares as well. Great to see so many of you out on social media this Sunday. Narayan B. Pat is the first on YouTube. Thanks, Narayan, for that kind of stick-to-itiveness and that kind of consistency, that kind of determination. First on YouTube, and we dare to say across social media, Narayan Bipat is out here, out here, representing. Good to see you, George. Annan, who is watching from Brooklyn, Mbali Clark watching from Brooklyn. Glendon Tony is watching from Maryland. And we have Frank Moore as well. Siobhan McDonald is here with us. Estelle Griffith is here too. She's watching and listening. Marlon Winnett, Glasgow Rose. Lots of names there. Charlene Dulciette Tendry is here too. She says good morning to all of you. It's afternoon where we are, but we know for some folks in the diaspora, based on the time differences, it is morning yet where you are. Good to see you, David Wood and Mark Garnett. Good to see Pinky Richmond and Audrey Ward. Good to see Travis McFoy and all the other beautiful, fantastic people who are joining us today. Guys, we would rather it no other way. We prefer it no other way. We are tremendously happy to have so many of you like Bernadette Craig and Audrey Ward, June Gilbert, Ann Webb. We see you. Wilma Grant is here as well. And we're good to see Romy Leander too, who is again joining us from Maryland. Happy to be in the house. Happy to be in the house. That is what our Maryland watcher has said. Cecile, good to see you, Cecile Ogle. Tiffany Bihari is here as well. We have Cherry Jeffrey and Yvonne McPherson. Amos Linton is joining us from Brooklyn, New York as well, while Cherry Jeffrey is joining us from Antigua and Barbuda, Antigua in particular. We have Rensford Morgan joining us from London, and we have Dolores Lynch, Gloria Chester from Diamond, joining us from Diamond. We have Vanessa Ward Dean as well is here with us. And we have lots of other folks who are joining. Michaela Webster is here. Dishon Alexander. You see, folks, why we call it an international podcast? We just want use words for the sake of using words. But guys, it's our privilege to be here. We're continuing our discussion from yesterday. Prospects for 2022. Political prospects for 2022. And today we're going to be having with us Tabitha Sorabo Haley, who's going to join us a little later on in the program. Tabitha is tying up some morning rituals, some Sunday morning rituals. And we have with us as well Elson Lowe. Tabitha is a member of parliament, and Elson Lowe is a practicing economist by training and practice. And we're privileged to have him. Alia Waldron is here. And Alia is reminding us of our theme for this year, Pace and Power in 2022. Neville Baggart, we see you there as well. Guys, how is the Sunday morning greeting you? How has Sunday morning been at your end? We trust you guys have had a really, really fantastic time thus far. I am not in a lunch mode as yet, even though it's a little after 12. And, folks, really and truly, everybody has lunch these days whenever they want to during the course of the morning. Soon as my wife finished cooking in the morning, it was 9 o'clock or 10, I have a lunch. Try with that. But it's good. It's good to see all of you. And we know that you guys do lunch your way. But currently in studio, I'm having a cup of hot chocolate. And I was listening to Nora Jones before we came on live, and just kind of easing out of the morning with some Nora Jones. And one song in particular Nora Jones has that always gets to me is "What Am I to You?" What am I to you? And guys, what are you listening to this Sunday morning? I know some of you are going to be listening to some gospel. Some folks like some old soul and Sunday morning. What kind of music do you people listen to out there on a Sunday morning? And some old soul, some old R&B. Some people say some what we call oldies. Sunday morning, but that's how people like to do it. You're doing your chores, you're doing your work. You may have had a busy week and not done anything around the house, so people use Sunday morning, where I'm from, to kind of tidy up and so forth. What are you guys listening to? Cycling Earl, Cycling Earl is asking us about our digital cash platform Zelle. We're gonna have that soon. So we really, really hope that you guys have found some. Guys, you can't always be wound up tightly. You got to find some way in which you unwind, some way in which you relax. Tessa Isaacs Graves Andy says she was watching. Is it watching To Serve With Love, or you were listening to the soundtrack To Serve With Love? It's a beautiful film, old film, and the soundtrack is equally beautiful. That's coming from Tessa Isaacs Graves Andy. So guys, we hope you guys got some good music to listen to. Earl, Cycling Earl says that she listens to a lot of. She says my old school is Lost Souls of the 80s. An old soul. Oldies of the 80s, Lost Souls of the 80s, guys. So find some good music. Find some good music to listen to. Guys, we're going to have the Zelle app. I know see some of you are mentioning that. We're going to be using that. I hope when we start using it, you'll come on board and partner with us. But we're going to have that shortly. Good to see folks like Sunil Khan and Carly Hendy, Braffett. Guys, some of the information that we are following. Good to see you, Paul, 63. Mind you, I ain't sharing none of my hot chocolate with y'all. No beams. As we used to say, no beams. For those of you who are really old school, no beams. Some of the things we're following just before we have our guests join us. We are, one of the things we saw last week is the Guyana Police Force dedicating a ablution area to the former Region 3 Commander E. Watts, Mr. E. Watts, and the ablution area is a toilet facility, and we found this kind of hilarious because, what is your legacy that when you have left, people name a toilet after you, this country needs, this country needs a confusion powder. So, I'm looking at the photograph of this ablution area, these toilets, 4 toilets, I think it might be in Region 3 as well, that were dedicated to Commander E. Watts. What a legacy. What a legacy. And the post on social media where we picked this up from, the person who posted it says, the jokes write themselves in Guyana, I swear. The jokes write themselves. Right? Write themselves. And again, what a legacy you have when a toilet facility is named after you. At the top of the toilet facility has the words, Commander E. Watts Ablution Facility. Very, very interesting, guys. We're also following this fire at the Georgetown Hospital. The fires of the PPP. The fires of the PPP. And a week doesn't go by. We have a very small country, a small population, on a weekly basis. Some places burning down under the threat of fire or otherwise. And yesterday morning, we missed it in our program yesterday, but I didn't want to do so today. We're following this fire out of the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. And according to Stabrook News this morning, Stabrook News is reporting that the fire occurred in the echocardiograph room, which is located on the first floor of the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation compound there. And the entire room was severely damaged. It's estimated that the equipment that has been lost there is valued at between 25 and 30 million dollars. And again, this fire occurred on the second floor of the Georgetown Public Hospital in a particular section of that compound that houses the echocardiograph room. Again, our thoughts with the staff there. Some of them could be tremendously traumatized by such an occurrence of a fire there that caused this kind of damage. But we're going to continue to follow this, and as we have additional information, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have that for you. Guys, how is the weather where you are? How is the weather? June Chase, Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year to all of you. Irwin Dawn Cook, he matches his second already. Deborah Halley and Adam Passad, and Deborah Halley is here as well. We have Irwin Dawn Cook, Wilma Grant. Wilma, we're going to have Zelle shortly. We don't have it set up quite as yet, but we're going to have Zelle shortly. Y'all could Zelle me how much ever you want. Zelle me in this new year. Peace and power in 2022. Guys, this is how we're doing it. And as an addition to our programming on a weekly basis, we're going to have our podcast here, our international podcast, Below the Belt, every day of the week. Every day we're going to be on bringing the information to you, as I said, bringing the personalities to you. And folks, where I am, we have picture perfect weather. It is 32 degrees outside according to weather.com. Sad to say we don't follow the local authority on the weather, because we find when these guys say it's going to rain, the sun's strong outside. And when it says it's going to be sunny, it's rain. Right? Just because we don't follow GPL. When GPL says lights, it's cascading shutdowns. Right? Accumulation of darkness. So much for the meteorological office. Same thing. When they say rain is sun is rain. So we ain't paying attention to them. According to weather.com, it's 29 degrees outside. And as the afternoon picks up, there's a 31% chance of rain. Guys, have you been outside? Have you been outside? I took a long drive this morning to Parika Market. And we had breakfast there at Parika Market, myself and some members of my family. We had a beautiful morning outside at Parika Market. Walked through the market, picked up some items, patronized the folks there. Shout out to all the ringsiders at Parika Market there. Everywhere we turn, in the ring, hold your ring. Things tight. Folks, we thank you so much for the support. Neil Butcher says it's rainy and cold in New Jersey. Nell Butcher, rather, says it's rainy and cold in New Jersey. And Sophia Abdin is watching us from Queens, New York. Good to see you there, Sophia. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Sophia Abdin. And Carla Washington says she has hot sun wherever she is. Carla, where are you joining us from? Nonetheless, good to see all of you folks. Lauren Stahl says it's a second rainy day with snow upcoming. Lauren, where are you joining us from? Lauren has to be somewhere in the United States of America or perhaps in Canada. She says it's a second day of rain and with snow upcoming. Guys, we're going to have as folks are asking me in the comment section, we're going to have Zelle available to us. We have Cash App at the moment. As you know, it's a $ in the ring 592. It's a $ in the ring 592, our Cash App handle. We're available via PayPal as well. Our PayPal address is in the ring 592 at gmail.com. In the ring 592 at gmail.com. And we're available via the local Cash App. You know, we're hosting our podcast from the national capital city of Georgetown here in Guyana. And the local Cash App is the MMG system out of our phone company, GT&T. And our number there is 627-6963. And guys, we're also available via Western Union. We're available via MoneyGram as well. And folks, we ask for people to come and partner with us. We know things tight in a lot of places, but for as little as $5 per month, you guys can help us do so much more than we're doing currently. $10, 15, 20. That is what we offer you. If you guys want to go above that, you are free to do so, but you can partner with us on a monthly basis. $5, 10, 15, 20 US dollars. And guys, I'm certain by now you've been seeing what we are doing. We are committed to bringing you the credible news and valid information, about what's happening where we are. And we pick up on news also in the diaspora, wherever our people are around the world, around the Caribbean, for the North, for the East, for the West. And that is what we're committed to. So currently we have our podcast here, and we're an affiliate of the In the Ring program that we also have, that comes up on 5 days per week, every evening at 8 o'clock. And we have also our website, Credible Sources, and we have additional programs being developed, all because we want you guys to have a lot of information. We know you need it, you want it, you've been asking for it. And so every day of the week, we're going to be on with our podcast. Monday to Friday, still with the In the Ring program. We're going to have some additional programs on the weekends and also during the course of the week. So look out for that. We're going to be rolling those out shortly. And folks, we're going to be having that Zelle platform very shortly. So bear with us with that is concerned, but you guys have also Western Union and MoneyGram available to you. I see Annetta Allen says it's snowing in Ontario. Annetta says it's snowing in Ontario. Marcel Daniels also says it's snowing in Ontario. Guys, we could sense some of this almost perfect weather we have here in Guyana, where it's cold where you guys are. But we hope you guys have your layers and you guys bundle up, as they say, and stay warm. If it's raining where you are, try to stay as dry as possible. Althea Lane is joining us from beautiful B Field, Sophia. Good to see you, Althea. Thanks to each and every one of you who are here with us. It means so much. I'm privileged this morning, as I said. I have two guests who are going to be with us. I have the Honorable Member of Parliament, Tabitha Sarabo Hali, who's here with us, who's going to be joining us shortly, rather. And I have Mr. Elson Lowe, an economist by training and by practice. I'm privileged to have Elson with me right away. And with that being said, I want to welcome Elson Lowe, the economist. Elson, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. It's a new year, and excited as always.
You sound exciting.
Come on and have a chat.
You sound exciting. You sound excited. Fired up and ready to go, Elson.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about. It's going to be an important year for Guyana. So as a result, we've got to really be sharp this year because so many things that will impact the future of the country in a big way are going to be unveiled as the year progresses. Obviously we ended in a lot of controversy with the Natural Resources Fund Act, but that is going to have to be operationalized, and so that's something we're going to have to pay close attention to as the year unfolds.
Fantastic, fantastic. As Elson comes on, I want to give a shout out to Donna Liverpool, who's watching us from French Guyana. Donna Liverpool, respect and manners, Donna. I see also Rowena Williams watching us from Linden. Good to see you, Rowena. And we have Albert Morgan joining us from number 51 Village on the Quarantine. Number 51 Village Quarantine. But it's good to have all you fantastic folks in the house. We want to see those emojis. Hundreds of you are watching us across social media internationally. We want to see those emojis. We want to see those shares as well. Well, Elson, tell us what kind of a year was 2021 for you as we get into our discussion. What kind of year you had in 2021? You probably were hasting to get out of it. Talk to us.
Yeah, it was a bit of a disaster for the country, wasn't it? And unfortunately, the disaster seemed only to escalate as the year went on. We started with poor management of the COVID-19 response. We started with unnecessary confusion around the vaccine regarding that procurement that was very suspicious. And then we rolled into a flood. And in the course of the flood, there were so many questions about the distribution of relief. And as the year wore on, we started to see huge price increases. Citizens will recall how difficult it has been to afford to live in Guyana. When it comes to food, you had 14% increase in prices at mid-year mark. The overall increase was in excess of 5% for cost of living. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the highest increase, in the last 10 years, more than 10 years. So we had a really monstrously difficult period, and then we roll into the end of the year and we get the slap in the face of the 7%, which was tax.
A slap in the
So
face, indeed. It was a box. Slap to this is a box we get.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was nowhere near what was required given the sharp increase in the cost of living. And as I've mentioned on other platforms, if oil is mismanaged, what you'll see is a decrease in the standards of living rather than an increase. And for this year, at least, I think that is the experience that a lot of people in Guyana had. And then to top off this escalating wave of nonsense, we had a natural resources fund act, which is incredibly distressing, concerning, frightening, and which now will position the country to be facing some risks that we
Mm-hmm.
were trying desperately to avoid.
Indeed, indeed. On the economic front, you did mention that slap in the face 7%. I see Mr. Norton in his New Year's address calling for a 25% increase in wages and salaries in 2022. What are your thoughts there?
Yes, well, I understand why he's mentioning that. What is not well understood in Guyana is that between last year, this year, and next, and well, I have to say, year before last year, and this new year, it's a new year. I'm just catching up with it.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
we're we're essentially going to see the Guyanese economy more than double. And what is important to know is that public servants have played a key role in facilitating this rapid expansion by the oil and gas industry and all of the industries connected to the oil and gas industry. So the productivity of public servants, the value they've been adding to the economy has been monumental. And as a result of that, we really need to appropriately compensate our public servants who really are serving a vital role. Before we had an oil and gas industry, as much as police were fighting crime, they didn't have to worry that if, several Exxon workers are not able to carry out their jobs because something has happened, it would shut down huge growth in the economy and have a huge impact. But now, police in their everyday jobs are having a much more productive impact on the economy because they have a greater role in terms of protecting the staff that are allowing the economy to move forward. So that's just one example of public servants. But even setting up businesses, so many businesses have had to be set up downstream of the oil economy, connected to the oil
Mm-hmm.
economy.
Mm-hmm.
And public servants are the people who help to facilitate those businesses to be set up in an efficient manner so that we can actually move the economy forward. So it is very appropriate for them to have a substantial raise because they're having a big impact on our economy.
Awesome. For those of you who didn't have a chance to join us yesterday, we were joined by leader of the Alliance for Change and Member of Parliament, Kemraj Ramjatan, and we were also joined by a columnist and historian, Mr. Ronald Austin Jr. And Kemraj is quite optimistic that there's going to be more engagement between government and opposition, the installed regime and the opposition, and there's going to be also, some positive movements on that political front. Um, Ronald seemed to be less enthusiastic. Is pretty much saying that a good predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and that if nothing in the history of the PPP, and especially what's occurring now, seem to suggest that things are going to get better anytime soon. What are your thoughts, uh, Elson, and more particularly within the context of the economy?
Yes, well, I think because the most important piece of legislation to govern the Guyanese economy going forward, the Natural Resources Fund Act, did not have provisions for the input of the opposition. Whereas the previous act, and there's a question as to whether this act was even legally passed. Whereas the previous act did have provisions for the engagement of the opposition and extensive engagement of civil society. I think that that has set the tone for the new year, which is not a good tone. We're going to see the president appoint the five people to actually run the Natural Resources Fund. That's the board. And that's going to be, people that are appointed by the president without consultation, as the law stands, with the
Mm-hmm,
opposition. And I think that that has set the tone for a year, which I think will be very hostile in that regard. And that's very unfortunate because we want the people that are handling our oil revenues to be people that everyone is comfortable with and not just people who are solely answerable to the president without any kind of oversight. So I think that that really, that unfortunate and offensive bill has set tone for a year, which I don't, I'm not as optimistic about in that regard.
And I don't think that you are alone in that, because quite a few commentators on social media, and whether it's ordinary citizens or people who are versed in on these issue, I like what I'm hearing, I like what I'm seeing, and I dare say some of the PPP's own supporters have now given up on them. They don't like this return to pre 2015 that the PP seems destined to take us back as against forward. And people have been speaking up. People have been speaking up. And the PPP seems ill-equipped to deal with life in these modern times. They think it's still do as I say and not as I do, because they ain't practicing what they preach. They are not, and so many of them have been found wanting. That it's really sad. Um, they're going to be coming with with a new budget shortly, and I think nobody really expecting any surprises there. And nobody, they can come and say it's the biggest budget. They said it in the last two, right? They said it's going to be the last one here was economic dynamism and resilience was the theme. Well, how they're going for us? How is that going for us? So like many persons, we're not too optimistic that things will get better. It's just more for people teeth, not so else.
Yeah, well, one of the key questions that I find to be absolutely fascinating is this. That 500 million or so that currently are, in the bank account that we've accumulated from our revenue, the law provides for all of that to be removed immediately.
And probably gone
So,
already.
is it going to be removed? That is going to be a very fascinating thing to find out when the budget rolls around and we start to hear how they're going to finance a larger budget.
Else I
That
said
one.
gone already. David, I think the money done gone already. Done change hands. Done change hands.
Well, that's the suspicion, isn't it? Which is why they wanted the full amount to be available to be spent, right? There's a question as to whether they may have overspent or whether there's big debts that have been racked up and they needed to cover it. That's why the urgency and the haste to pass this bill, despite even the GCCI saying that it needed more time, despite many organizations coming out to
Yeah,
say that
yep. Article
this needed to
13
be slowed down.
organization, the Ghana Policy Forum group. You had Transparency International, and Starbucks News. I think asked the question that a lot of people were asking: why this racing speed? We saw the opposition uh, tried tried valiantly. That's what I'm looking for. Valiantly, the National Assembly to put a brakes, to put a pause, for us to reconsider this, so for us to bring a good bill for the people of this country and pass it into law. but these guys are not taking any advice. They're not taking any guidance. Elson, why you think, as Abakum said, why this racing speed, why this desperation, all that is happening, all of the pushback, all of the caution, why aren't they heeding it? Why aren't they heeding it? What are we missing?
Well, what I would say is I've been waiting for some time to see what they would actually produce in this bill because it will give you a sense of the direction they want to go. And what they don't want is for civil society, the opposition, and all right thinking citizens of the country to have an opportunity to really look at the bill and understand the implications of the changes that they've made. And the implications of these changes are very, very frightening because there aren't really any of the safeguards to stop us going in the direction of a Venezuela, of an Equatorial Guinea, etc. So the worst examples, those things are very much available to us because the oversight is being removed. The Public Oversight and Public Accountability and Oversight Committee, the mandate has been stripped, whereas that committee was directly responsible for evaluating how funds are going to be spent. All of that's been stripped. The committee now only evaluates how the board operates. The board, of course, appointed by the president, so accountable to the president. And then also the membership of that committee has been stripped. And I think they did not want that membership to get a chance to speak out and to have an input.
Mm-hmm,
Because when
mm-hmm.
you look at who they have removed the Transparency International Guyana, they've removed the Extractive Industry Transparency Institute, Chartered Accountants Association of Guyana, Guyana Press Association, University of Guyana Council Representation, Bar Association. You know, all the people who really would have been able to speak up about corruption are the people who have been removed. And so you have to ask the question, if you're against corruption, why are you removing all of these people that would be able to point out where there's corruption, where there's theft of oil and gas resources? That is giving the impression that you're pro corruption. So, I think those are the types of questions that they didn't want to have to answer, the PvP that is. And as a result, they try to ram through the bill before we can have proper discussion. But I think in excluding all of these organizations, they really are going to have their eyes wide open because it is really alarming what has gone on. And I think that citizens should take a step back and ask themselves, what is going on here? Because when you remove all of the anti-corruption groups, and you make everybody answerable to the president more effectively, it just makes it seem like what's going to happen is endless corruption.
And I'm certain, so that you're concerned that the international community is going to be concerned about this and their own reaction, whether that sets us back even further, because we've already been set back by some of the action of the PPP. The Americans, in particular, had come out with a very strong statement on International Anti-Corruption Day, of which the Americans were asking the government, this installed regime, to put forward their anti-corruption initiatives. And in spite of that, they seem to have gone in the other direction, as you've so elegantly articulated, in pulling out those organizations from this process of this natural resource fund bill that is now an act, and we know it has been passed illegally, pulling out the safeguards from that. So somebody who's always thinking about these issues like you must be concerned that there's going to be some pushback from the international community on this.
Yes, I agree that there will be pushback from the international community. They have seen this movie a million times before. One of the things that I think people don't even know is that Venezuela attempted to develop a sovereign wealth fund. But there's no point in having a sovereign wealth fund if it's full of holes all over and anything can pass through. And so the international community, I'm sure, is very anxious. I'm sure that the circumstances around the passing of the bill have made them more anxious. And indeed, we haven't seen any significant anti-corruption measures included since, put forward since the PPP has come to office. In fact, it's been the opposite. We are supposed to have an audit of that cash grant program, the COVID-19 cash grant program. We're not seeing anything come out of that. It's
Well,
over a year
the
since
the
that program
the
began.
the Auditor General did that. What's his name? The Auditor General said that COVID is preventing him from doing an audit of the COVID cash grant. Just an update and an aside on that. COVID is preventing him and staff from doing an update from doing the audit of the COVID cash grant. Right, but that didn't prevent him from doing from pronouncing on the audit on the from pronouncing on the cash grant, if you want to call it that, initiative of the APNU AFC, and to know that how many ever persons were not given who were entitled to it. It didn't prevent him. The COVID didn't prevent him from that, but it's preventing him from auditing the PPP installed regime, disbursement of the cash grant. Interesting times.
Yes, very interesting indeed. Very interesting indeed. And as I've mentioned in previous programs, I think about 1.5 billion might be not accounted for, which is why we need that audit to find out what is going on. Because the amount of money that was requested implies a far higher population than UN statistics and the 2012 census will imply. So there's a lot of money there floating around. We don't know where that money is gone, and we need to have an account for it so that we are more comfortable as a society with what went on there. But that's a pattern that I think is repeated all over. When you look at the Public Procurement Commission, which has not been properly reactivated, which was allowed to lapse, and that is in charge of ensuring that procurement in this country happens in the way that it should happen. You've got a lot of allegations now of various contracts that were awarded in violation of the Procurement Act or of tender board regulations, which again is a red flag for corruption. And on top of all of that, you're now going to have the safeguards against corruption in the Natural Resources Fund, in the bill that's actually controlling our oil revenues, removed. And so, I find it difficult for the PvP to say that they're anti-corruption. I think the PvP is pro-corruption, and they should come out and say that is their stance and that's their belief. Because I don't see any evidence they're anti. All I see is evidence they're pro.
Excellent. Folks who are now joining us, you are tuned into the podcast Below the Belt, or international podcast. We just got podcast. International. We big. We out here in 2022, guys. And I'm your host, Sherry Duncan. We have with us today the young and vibrant economist by practice and training, young Elson Lowe. We will have joining us shortly, Tabitha Strabo. Harley, she did say to me just now via message that she's going to be a couple seconds late, and we're still expecting her. And we're discussing political prospects for 2022. Political prospects for 2022. I want to zero in something as I said early on, and we invite you guys to share the live podcast. We invite you guys that we want to see those emojis as well. So smash that emoji button. Let's see what's happening where you guys are. Tremendously privileged to have each and every one of you. But Elson started talking about some of the safeguards that have been broken down in this process of the Natural Resources Fund Act of 2021. And what is so striking as well? It is not only in this act, in so many aspects of our daily life, institutions that safeguard the interests of the people, that provides checks and balances to the executive, and that this installed regime needs, they are either doing away with, or they're not even activating and operationalizing. Whether it is the Police Force Commission, whether it is the Judicial Service Commission, you name it. Any body that provides oversight, and this government believes is going to be a process and a forum which does not lend to them infiltrating and having their own way, they are not operationalizing. And when it is operationalized, it's a whole set of friends and family. And that is what we saw quite recently with the, I think it's the Police Service Commission. We got a whole set of PPPites stacking the deck there. And again, that is a form of rigging. You're creating a situation that things are to your benefit and your well-being, and not necessarily that of society at large. And so that is where we are. Elson, your thoughts?
Yes, I completely agree. We're seeing institutions removed, degraded, minimized across the entire society, and it is incredibly alarming. I think, I think that sometimes Guyanese will say, well, we're just trying to make some progress, great luck. With the NRF Act, the argument has been put out that they're just trying to use the oil money for development. But the reason that a Natural Resources Fund bill, the reason that a sovereign wealth fund is so important is that oil has proven to be incredibly difficult to spend effectively and to spend in a way that is not damaging to the economy and the lives of citizens. Let us not forget that Venezuela was once one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and also that Venezuela has more oil than any other country. However, it is my belief that Venezuela, if you were to give them more oil, things would only get worse in the country, right? Because I think the institutions, the checks and balances are so poor that it is difficult for them to use the oil funds effectively. So having a lot of oil is not the only thing that is necessary to have successful development in your country. One of the things that has been removed is the macroeconomic committee that was supposed to evaluate the spending and evaluate what the economy could effectively take in terms of spending. So we didn't have high inflation, hyperinflation, and Dutch disease and various other problems. To help your viewers understand, this year we saw tremendous inflation, 14%, very high. But that is nothing compared to how bad it can get in places like Venezuela or Zimbabwe, etc., where let's say you're in a supermarket and you're buying some food. From if you're at the back of the line, from the time you pick up that product and you reach to the counter to pay, the price of the product will have changed because the prices are increasing so fast. That's how bad it is. And it's not by accident that Guyana is filled with Venezuelans who fled that country. In fact, 6 million Venezuelans have fled. The country only has 28 million people. So you're talking about a fifth of the population that is fled. And that's because just having oil is not enough. You need the right structures in place and the right management to ensure that you are running the economy properly, because otherwise it can become absolutely chaotic, because the amount of spending that goes on can really wreck your economy if not done well. So as much as I understand, sympathize with citizens wanting to get things done, and we do need to get things done, the way that we get things done is just as important as the what, because otherwise we run serious risks. And now we're looking at, as an example, this gas to shore project, which to me looks like the reincarnation of Amalia. And it just
And we
makes
know
me
how
more
that
and
went.
more worried as time has gone
We
on.
know that went.
Yes, and we can chat a bit about that if you're minded to share.
Fantastic. Folks, we are privileged now to be joined by Member of Parliament Tabitha Sarabo Haley as we discuss political prospects for 2022. And this is part two of our discussion we started yesterday. Tabitha, you were the point of the discussion where we're talking about the breakdown of the safeguards in our society while the PPP seek to run rampant. But we can put a stop to them. Tabitha, welcome.
Good afternoon, Sarah. Good afternoon, Elson. Good afternoon to viewers. Happy New Year to all of you. I feel as well. At a Sunday in church, it's a bit late to the program, and I was listening on my way home, so it's
We hope you prayed for
very
us at
difficult.
church. And you prayed for this nation too.
Always, we
Fantastic.
need a lot of prayers.
Plenty, plenty. Talk to us, Tabby.
All right. I've been listening. I think as your show, the topic political prospects for 2022. I think we need to take a lot of things into consideration. The current status of the regime, what they have shown us over the 60 months since they've been in office, and what they did prior to 2015. That would help us to determine what exactly the agenda would be this year. and also how it is we should respond to it so that we curtail as much of the negatives, and also inform the entire society of the atrocities that I'm quite sure will come, and then determine our way forward. You see, Shara, the dealing with the guardrails, but the reality is that we've seen over the last 16 months should suggest to us that there's nothing positive to come. What we will get is um, like every 6 months we know there's going to be rainfall. Um, they will not spend the time to ensure that there is proper drainage. But what we'll get is every 6 months there'll be more hamper shared out and more need for some more cash grants. So everybody likes an extra dollar, but will not be doing what's necessary so that people's lives are improved. And after the hampers are done, we will still have to go to the market where there's inflation, where food prices will continuously increase, and the monies in our pocket will be worth less, and we'll have a hard time getting through month by month. I don't see a lot of that changing based upon even what happened in the National Assembly last week. Because the reality is the opposition was buttressed by the fact that it was almost everyone except private education, because they have to go where they put their mouths, right? They have to wherever the soup is. But outside of it, everybody else was saying, hold on, let's take a minute to figure out what is going on there. And the PPP regime decided they don't need to listen to anyone. They don't need to listen to the citizens. They don't need to listen to the opposition. They don't need to listen to all of these civil society organizations. They can just do whatever it is they so desire, whether it's in the best interest of the country or not. And that alone would tell us exactly what we should expect, I believe, for the next year. So there's not a whole lot of positives that I expect, but I on the other side that the people have to keep themselves informed, and at the right time show that we will not accept what is being dished out to us, because we deserve better.
We deserve better indeed. And you know, this catfishing store regime, they've been talking about one Guyana that has been reduced to a little spot on Main Street. And you know, the pundits and the commentators have been saying repeatedly now that Irfan Ali, as head of this installed regime, talks a good talk, but in practice, my God, very, very poor, very, very deficient. As Starbuck News said of this last piece of legislation that they illegally passed in the National Assembly, said the Natural Resource Fund bill was gravely deficient. He talks a good talk, but it doesn't seem we're going to get anywhere close to that one Guyana, if you even want to call it as a vision, because the only thing seems to be part of this thing is some corridor of unity and a ministry of happiness. I don't know. The thing has never been articulated properly. How do you get there? It's not just lofty speeches. You know, we understand in this political business that you campaign in poetry, they say, but you govern in prose. These guys governing with confusion powder. Nothing close to prose nor poetry. Your thoughts? Are we heading towards a one Guyana or a divisive Guyana under them?
Sharad, you see, the reality is that they have not realized that we're in a era. I don't think they have quite grasped. They used it for the elections, the social media and so, but I don't think they have yet grasped the new era in which we are living in, because their ability to speak like in the 1950s and so, when it's only you on the radio and so whatever you say everybody has to believe because there's no counter thought, no counter discussion happening, that we're no longer in that era. And as soon as you say something, people can just go on their phones, go on their tablets, go on their computer and just type in a couple of words and see whether or not you're telling the truth or you're lying. And so it's as if they have not come to grasp with that. And so they are still in a 1950s political mindset where those things are concerned, but the rest of society has moved on. And everyone knows that they're lying. Everyone knows that they're about themselves. And so for 2022, that was happening, that the opposition has to keep ensuring that they are seen as the only viable option for the people, and that is where we push ourselves. There were a lot of complaints of what happened when we were in office between 2015 to 2020. A lot of people talk about the whether we're the less of the two evils, but we have to recognize that the society knows the PVP, don't expect much of the PVP, but what on the opposition, we have to make sure that we are seen as the only viable option. So whenever that bell rings, that the people will come out wholly and solely for us come next elections. And I think that has to be our goal, making sure that we are with the people, that we are showing that we are ready to govern, that we're putting all steps in place, and we're putting on policies that show this is how we will govern if we had the opportunity that the PPP currently has. And so I think the Natural Resource Fund 2019 was a good indication of where we wanted to go. And people may not have read it then, but because of what PP did on last Wednesday, people are getting a chance to read what we did and compare it to what it is that PP has put us in. And they're now seeing the difference and seeing why it is that what we had was so much more superior than what it is that they introduced to the population. And so that is what we need to continue to do, because the future are going to keep digging holes for themselves. And the Guyanese people don't expect much from them. So we need to just make sure that we're on the right track.
Well, I am not against them digging holes for themselves. I can tell you that. I'm not against that. There's an adage in politics: when you see your enemy defeating himself, you just left me. Elson.
Yes, absolutely. I think you're quoting Napoleon there.
In my own
Never
crude way.
interrupt an enemy in the process of making a mistake. Actually, that's. But yes, I completely agree that they've been making some comprehensive mistakes, and as a result of making these comprehensive mistakes, they're really making themselves quite vulnerable. I think that there was no need to antagonize the entirety of civil society and to raise up everybody's ears when it comes to this natural resources fund act. There was no need to try to do this because I think that a lot of people have been paying attention who might not otherwise have paid attention because they get the feeling in their stomachs that something is not wrong about the way that all of this has happened. The rush, the secrecy, putting it around the holidays so that people are distracted. There's a lot there that I think has made people a little bit suspicious. And I'm glad the Guyanese are paying a little closer attention because that is going to be vital as these oil revenues begin to be spent. And one of the things that I would call Guyanese's attention to again is that the gas to shore project, which was originally supposed to cost 400 million US, and that the coalition designed and started to get the ball rolling on, that cost first ballooned to 900 million US. Now we're seeing that the project is being totally redesigned, and they've thrown out all the bidders and they want fresh bidders. But this thing is growing in cost, growing in size, starting to become, I don't know what it's going to become. And there's no real plan for how specifically we're going to use the natural gas. There should be a full formal document called a Gas Utilization Master Plan. Trinidad's is over 700 pages, and we don't have anything at all. So we're building big, elaborate gas facilities. We're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of US on these facilities, and there's no specific plan. One of the things I'm even looking at now is they're looking to have liquefied natural gas facilities so that we can export some of the gas, as an example. But without a plan as to how specific amounts of gas will be used, we could end up having facilities that can create liquid gas and export them, but we don't have enough gas being pumped to shore to support those facilities. You see what happens when you don't have a plan in place? It's chaos. And in the midst of it, you have to ask whether there will be corruption carried out by the PUP in actually building out these facilities. So I think that this is kind of the direction that we see the PUP heading, removing safeguards and then spending the money in ways that are highly questionable. Which is why I stress again, we're seeing the Amalia Falls project reborn because that's another project where the costs continue to spiral way out of proportion. and where the country was left in a shambles as a result.
Yep, yep, yep. Thanks, Elston.
Sharon,
Tabitha, right ahead.
if I may, I think there's one thing that I think we keep missing, and that is when we say that they don't have a plan or they don't have a strategy. I think they have a plan, and they have a strategy, and their plan and their strategy is exactly what it is they're doing. It doesn't make logical sense to us
But
because
there's
we might expect them
method
to
to the
govern and to
madness.
govern a particular way, in the interest of ensuring that there are checks and balances, that you're not trying to be corrupt, that you're trying to get the best dollar, the best value for dollar. And so our thought process where governance is concerned is a bit different. But when your plan is just to see how much wealth you can siphon off from the public purse and put into personal accounts, then you do it the way that they're doing it right now, which is no checks and balances, no real strategy, because strategy means that you sort of pigeonhole to a particular way of doing things, and that reduces the ability for you to just siphon off whatever it is that you need from each project, from each contract, from each proposal. And so I think we need to shift our mindset from saying that they don't have a plan or a strategy. They do, and they are fulfilling that plan and that strategy, which is how much money can they remove, as they have done in the past, from the public purse into private bank accounts for their own friends and their family and themselves. I think that shift needs to happen in our minds as to when it is that we're dealing with beauty, what exactly it is that they're about.
Fantastic, fantastic. Guys, believe it or not, we're at program time already. We're at program time already. What are your thoughts to the Guyanese people as we wrap up? We're starting this new year. I think there's a sense that we can get more of the same out of people. More money available to us because of oil and gas in particular, but we ain't gonna feel it in the pocket. It can be another 7% or even less for or if anything at all for public servant in the upcoming budget. I was looking at a post on MP Twitter finance page just this morning where she's talking about how some businessmen in some particular area came together and they're distributing food items and how so many people are still hungry in our country. And this is a country which we are always touting as the fastest growing economy. I'm feeling it in my pocket. I'm not feeling it. So it's more the same. What are our thoughts to Guyanese as we enter this new year?
Well, Sharon, what I would say is that I think that as fast as Guyana has been growing, we've been seeing inequality in the country grow. And so I think this new year is going to be a year where we as citizens must recognize that growing inequality and call for it to be addressed as much as possible. Whether that is through public servant salaries being increased, whether that is through us seeing better public services provided and more relief to those who need it. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, we cannot allow inequality in the country to grow at such a huge pace and not address it because we'll see living standards fall rather than rise as a result of oil, which is the opposite of what it is that we want to see in this country. So I think we have to have that at the back of our minds. I think also that now that we're going to see the actual operationalization of the Natural Resources Fund Act, we need to scrutinize closely who is going to be put on that board. We need to scrutinize closely the actions of that board, and we need to scrutinize closely the spending that is actually done from that fund. We cannot afford to lose sight of what is going on because that will affect the entire economy. And so I call on all Guyanese to really look in this new year to take a step back and ask yourself what is going on, why is it going on, and most importantly, how is it affecting me and affecting my country? Because it's a big year in terms of changes, but we need to see the right types of changes.
Fantastic, Elson. Fantastic. Tabitha, your thoughts to Guyanese?
So a lot of things are going through my mind here. There's feeling, well, let me put it differently. A lot of people would be of the perception that, you know what, the people here are just going to do whatever they want to do. So I will just sign out and just look after the four in my home and whoever's in the four walls, and just try to eke out a living as best as possible and hope that I can find my way through this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would like to suggest that we take another approach. You see, this country and the resources of this country belong to all of us. And we are here in this country, we're placed here to be able to have access equally to all of the resources and the wealth that is in this country. And no one grouping or one individual should have the ability to be in total control and determine alone who gets what, when, where, and how. I would like to suggest that Guyanese keep themselves informed over the year, keep, and speak out in any way and shape that you can. You may only be able to do it on social media under an alias name because you may be in a public service job and so you don't want to get fired. We understand that. You may be able to write letters in the newspaper because that is what you can do. You wrote writing, we need to do that. For those who can speak out, go to groups, speak to persons in the communities, let them understand what is happening and why it is that they need to be informed and understand what is going on. About a couple of years ago, when we were in government, there was a call that we start these kitchen gardens. I think we need to get back into that because I don't see the price of food items go down. They rarely do, and so we need to be able to feed ourselves and our families as much as we can during this period. I think it's going to be a bit of a rough stretch this year, but I think people need to stay on top of it. I think as a society, we need to be able to when the rough times come, be able to ride through it, but ride through it more informed. So when the time comes to make the decisions, or when a call comes, we know how to answer it because we know what it is that we're fighting for and what it is that we're fighting against. Because if we don't, then and we allow it to continue, then we will be on the side of the fence, begging for bread, and the other people will be living lush lives, and we will just be seeing them on the side of the road. And so we cannot allow that to happen for ourselves or our future generations. And so I would like to suggest to our Guyanese people to keep informed and do what you can to stay healthy. Do what you can to stay to ensure that there's food on your table and to keep informed as it is that we move forward in this year. The PPP is not going to go away without a fight, but we have to make sure that we're doing all that we need to do so when the fighting time comes, that we're ready for it.
Fantastic, fantastic, guys! It's been my privilege. I wish we didn't have to stop here, but we have to. That's how things go. We promised folks an hour of discussion, and we want to stick to that. But it's been my privilege having you guys being part of this fascinating discussion on political prospects for 2022. It's part two of our discussion. We started it yesterday, and we're going to have another two guests on tomorrow as well, guys. Tomorrow is a new week. New week, first week in the new year. But it's great to have a member of parliament, Tabitha Sarabo Haley, and good to have as well economist Elson Lowe with us discussing this myriad issues, intricate, nuanced issues, guys. And we cannot by any means exhaust it in an hour period. And we're going to be talking about these issues more and more and challenging the powers that be, illegal and installed as they are. We're going to be challenging them throughout this year. Pace and power for 2022. Guys, thanks for being with us and spending this time below the belt.
Thank you for having us. And Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, guys. Happy New Year to you guys as well. Folks, that's our time today. Again, tremendously privileged that we have and that we have had with us Member of Parliament Tabitha Sarabo Haley and Elson Lowe, the young and upcoming, sprightly, energetic economist. Elson Lowe, guys. And thanks to you guys. You know, we always say, it's y'all. We sound like real guys. It's y'all make this program what it is. Cecile Ogle and Roy Garraway, Colin Davison. We see Carla Washington is here with us as well, and Gloria Pod. Adam Passad, we see you. Good to see you, Siobhan McDonald. Guys, why don't you share the live stream before you go? We want to see those emojis as well. Hundreds of you are watching us this Sunday afternoon, and we're tremendously privileged to have each and every one of you. Whether you're joining us on Twitter, you're joining us on Facebook, Meta the Blue App, whether you're joining us on the YouTube, guys, why don't you share the link, share the live stream if you're on YouTube? And we want to see those emojis as well. Guys, rest this afternoon, relax, spend some time with family, enjoy it, finish the weekend on a high note, on a very high note. Great to see each and every one of you. Gloria Mingo Byrne, good to see you. Pinky Richmond, good to see you. Alex Boom, Karen Clark, good to see each and every one of you guys. That's been our program for today. Thanks for joining us below the belt. On Monday, tomorrow, we're back in the ring at 8 p.m. But we have another podcast tomorrow before we get into the ring in the evening. Guys, you make this program. If you think it's special, it's because they are. If you think it has any value, and hopefully that's why you tune in day after day, lunch hour after lunch hour, guys, it's because you guys show up here time and again. Hope you guys enjoy lunch. Good to see you, Colleen Sierra Andrews and Quasi Moffat. Good to see you, Rami Leander. Thanks for joining the podcast, Glennis Mingleborn. All you fantastic, beautiful folks, do have a great rest of the day. That's our program for today. Stay safe, guys. Stay safe out there. Stay safe. We love all of you.